Hey, welcome to the AI Customer Success Brief. I'm Jeff Kushmerek, founder of Infinite Renewals. Super excited for this podcast. Today's conversations with Ashley Stallings at Salsify. And I love this conversation. I actually worked, side note, with Ashley on a project a few years ago. And she reached out to me and wanted to talk about what her team was building. And we got into it. And there's a few things I wanted to chat about what you're hearing and what everybody's talking about. I've been in so many conversations. This is what AI tool that we're doing. This is what we're doing in Claude. Have you seen X? Have you seen Y? And this is not that. This is a bigger problem. This is an exec team and a board meeting getting together and saying, you've got 2 months to migrate off of your CSP, in this case, Gainsight. And then they had to jump into it. They had an internal team that Ashley will talk about that had built out a tool. They had seen that for sales, and they said, listen, why don't we use this throughout the whole customer lifecycle? And they did it. In 2 months, they migrated off of Gainsight, stood up this internal platform, and it's the application they're using on a day in and day out basis. I want to be clear about something before you listen to it. I've been in a few conversations, and I was on a panel yesterday with CS leaders and CSPs, and there's this narrative that's out there, which is you either are on a platform or there's 30 people doing crazy stuff everywhere and it spirals out of control and your tokens get all burnt and everything. Yes, that absolutely happens. That's not it's not an if-then situation. So this is a really good one to listen to and see what companies who come into it with the right approach go for. They sat down, they defined what they needed. They gave it to a qualified engineering team, and that team built the hard stuff out, the privacy, the licensing, the customer data, and making sure that it's safe, your access controls, all of that. It's a model. We do it. We work with companies that have CTOs and forward-thinking people that build out these frameworks to be able to drop stuff into. There's more to life out there than just skills and prompts, right? On that note, and apologies, thinking a lot loud a little bit, Salsify is a pretty technical company. I know them really well because their founders were all at a company that I worked at for many years called Endeca, which was a super technical product. And a lot of those people started Salsify, and then their DNA was all over that. We had this concept for years, and it used to drive me crazy, but it wound up working out really well. We had always had this team, and it has different names, solutions engineering, or now it's like forward deployed engineers. Kind of like in football, they play free safety or center field or whatever your sports metaphor is. And they can build demos. They can build elements that aren't in the product yet that maybe the services or implementation team needs. And that's essentially the DNA of this team that built this. So another great thing that, again, this is why Ashley's such a good leader. She acknowledged and said, this is version 1, right? There was a backlog, that they're working on it, and they ran into all the problems that you would expect when you move fast. There's reporting gaps, there's data visibility issues, maybe some governance questions from other teams and that want to build their own things and stuff like that. So this is just a real, and why I love this so much, it's what I wanted this podcast to be, just an honest version of, look, this is what we're doing. We built this. It's in production. Is it perfect? No. Did we just rip off the Band-Aid and go for it? Absolutely yes. Were there some warts? 100%, right? All right, let's get into it. Enough of me talking. And it sounds like you had a CSP. It was Gainsight in this case.
Yeah.
And you decided to sort of build your own. So I'm just curious. I love hearing people build exactly what they need. So what did you wind up having get built out? Because it sounds like there's some prototyping and then the team kind of built some stuff out.
Yeah, it's built in almost two components right now, where part of what we need to do as part of our roadmap is shift to some of what was built for sales, just tweak it to be a little bit more CS relevant. So I'll share though on both sides because
Sure.
it's very applicable to the customer base. As we migrated off Gainsight, again, because we had to do it so quickly,
Yeah.
we first just built out like what we called the mission critical stuff. Like we know we need health scores, we know we need places to track risk and program plans and when customers are up for renewal and if they're at churn risk and things like that. But what already existed in the tool, and again, this was just launched in January, so not that long ago, is it's our own like Salsify LLM and intelligence. So when we are opening an account in there, it's pulling both external information about that customer. It's pulling industry information. It's
Wow.
pulling all their core Salsify data,
Yep.
users and things like that. But it's also pulling in our case studies, how we pitch products, and you can very quickly curate, hey, I'm going to join a conversation with customer X tomorrow, and it's going to quickly help you get up to speed on that customer. If you want to talk to them about one of our new products, it's going to tell you how to talk about it to be relevant to them based
Wow.
on how they use the product today. It talks about traps and carrots and sticks. So it's like very
Wow. That's awesome.
curated
Yeah.
to the customer, which was again part of when I saw it built for sales. I'm like, oh my God, we need this for our CS team. So there are things we know we have to tweak for more CS use cases. So we're thinking about building more strategic business reviews from there. And can we actually automate the program plans based on everything we know from that sales cycle, which we know never gets documented well anywhere, but from the calls and other
Right.
documents, can we curate information? So I feel like, I don't know, the possibilities are endless, but I think what we've already built in there is the tactical way we had already been using Gainsight.
Yeah, this is interesting because you went and did like, what do we need immediately to run the business? I see a lot, and I'd love to see your perspective on this because a lot of people come to me and they're like, oh, and they get stuck on a tool like a Claude or a Lovable or X, Y,
Yep.
and Z. So I always tell them like, oh, let's just zoom out here. Where's your current problem? You get your customer journey. There's always these problems along the way. Did you approach it that way? Really love this other approach you have, which is like, how do we service our customer? And then what are the tools? And please tell me if I'm wrong. And what I took out of that, it was like, we have a way that we know that we need to work with our customer, whether it's knowing risks, knowing the upsells and expansions and things like that. So you built out that sort of like, how do we post sales work with our customer, correct?
Yeah, I think it's two things. Well, one, as you noted, we just had a compelling event, so we were
Yeah.
kind of forced to do
That's how it
things
always happens,
very
though, right? Yeah, sure, sure.
quickly. But the initial focus has been how can we curate more personalized and valuable conversations for our customers rather than using generic information and talk tracks and slides. So that's been one piece of it. But we actually have prototyped for our next use case, and we did a hackathon
Oh,
for
that's
our
awesome.
commercial team, which Replit helped us with and sponsored. And we had people from our solution consulting group in it, from services, support,
That's awesome.
and the winner was actually a CSM manager and a CSM on her
Wow.
team. The overwhelming winners and what they prototyped just without real data, but it really worked, is a better way for us to start cohorting customers and communicating to them in a more personalized way at scale. So it's going to be built for primarily the mid market because we have about 600 customers in that segment with
Yep.
four CSMs managing it, but we believe that the application of it, we can use it more broadly across the customer base. So thinking
That's
about
awesome.
that
Yeah.
customer journey and how do we best communicate more at scale to customers at the right moment in time with the right information and touch points.
That's awesome. Wow. I'm getting confirmation on a lot of things that I've thought, but I've not heard from other people, which is why I started this. Is there a specific person that owns the roadmap for that tool? Is it you or is it somebody on your team?
Yeah, so how we have things set up across our commercial organization is anybody on the team can submit projects or they can prototype things. We built it into a tool called Apistry. Again, when I say we, not me personally, other
That's okay.
people, but then we have an internal board. So myself, the head of sales, head of marketing, where we all come together and discuss and vote on what we think the most impactful projects will be. And that is how the roadmap is prioritized. With our Gainsight migration stuff, it's a little bit different. I ultimately own the roadmap, but there's so many other people involved. And I did let my team have a lot of input into the roadmap because at the end of the day, they're the ones
Right.
doing the work. They're the ones that know what's going to be the most impactful. So there were areas I felt very strongly about, but they're building the prototypes and helping prioritize the roadmap too.
I am curious when you did your initial, and I know it was under almost duress, like you had notes and
Yes.
everything. What were the things that were like, we absolutely need this, right? Is it the cockpit view, like this is my book of business and risk overviews and things like that?
Yeah, it was the health score, which
Yeah.
we migrated over what we had, but we are rebuilding because I think without an accurate health score, how could you possibly know
Right.
where to spend your time? And I think historically, our health score has been a little bit noisy, but we started to really brainstorm if we could better curate information based on the industry that the customer is in, or could we build it by segment versus
Mm,
having one generic health score? We think we can get it a lot
yeah.
more accurate. So that's been the priority.
No, and I always tell people health scores are like, some people go all beautiful mind on them and everything, but it's like a work in progress sometimes, right? But I am seeing, especially since Claude came out or Code and Cowork came out this year, that there was this big, when I told you about startups doing a lot of these things and everything, this is where I see that where before you would wait for your health score to switch to like a yellow or a red and then go do something and then trigger off your playbook. What I'm seeing now is that component that took up the most of that health score. Like I always say, you need something that's like 30-40%. You can't have
Yeah.
10
Yeah.
things out
Yeah.
of 10, right? Like it just, that's the way I view it. But when that thing, like it's some type of variance data from like their data lake or something, like we expected them this week to have usage of this. We've got 2 weeks of it being that. People are just jumping in on that, right?
Yeah.
And I'm seeing just move towards just being a lot more proactive on the risk side because you actually can now start playing with the data a little bit yourselves and building these
Yes.
things.
I had that exact conversation with the team. I need to start getting pushes of data exactly to what you're saying. So for us, with how our platform works, it would be how many channels they're publishing to and things like that. I'm
Yep.
like, I need variance data that tells me the top movers and people who have lost that throughout the week or 2 weeks because those are the customers we have to spend the most time on. And you commented on cockpit. That's been my big vision that I'm excited about. I really think we can curate these cockpits for the CSMs where at any given week, it will tell them where they need to focus
Yeah.
their time. Because I think, as is natural in the industry, people spend their time with who's reaching out to them, what's the fire of the week. And
Yeah.
I think we can get to a place where we're better automating some of that stuff or
100%.
deflecting some of the
Yeah.
tactical work. Then we can help people focus on more strategic
Right.
work or more impactful work.
I think we're always in lockstep on a lot of these things, but they will focus on what I call bottom left versus top right. But if you're telling them this is your top right, we're not going to yell at you if somebody that was only paying us this amount is yelling at you. I always have this thing of like, oh, your bottom red customer is not important than your top yellow or top green and things like that. I'm curious, have you built out also the manager view? Of, I'll just speak an example and go from there. Let's say you want your renewals processes started for this segment in 90 days, but to have some type of view of like, wow, there are 60 days and they've had no engagement and things like that.
We have not built that yet, but that was my big hot topic today. A lot of our data now is going to get fed back into Salesforce. So we're going to prioritize
Yeah.
building those.
I'll
I don't care.
evaluate. But if you have Gong has a lot of these, and there's a lot of customers before this big AI revolution last year. They had all these reports of like customers without engagement under renewal. And so I'm a whole huge, yeah, build versus buy, but also like if you've got these things, see if you can just pull them in and sort
Yes,
of, yeah,
I completely agree with you. That was my big freak out this morning because I was like, hey guys, like, first of all, I realized I forced this like
yeah,
2 month insane migration that they stepped up to the plate and did. But I said along the way, like, I have lost all of my dashboards and information, and I don't even know how to pull it out of VIP at this point. So they're like, don't worry, it's getting fed into Salesforce tomorrow. Then we can recurate those. But yeah, I feel definitely very exposed right now that I lost a lot of that granular data.
Yeah, yeah. I'll definitely keep that part of it out. But I'm sure you have it too coming up. But like this was chock full of great information. All right, that's it for this one. If you're building something similar or wrestling with the same decisions Ashley's team ran into, I'd love to hear about it. Drop a comment on YouTube, find me on LinkedIn. If this was useful, also standard, subscribe where you listen, leave a review if you're on Apple Podcasts. It helps more people find the show, and I do try and make this show to be super helpful for everyone. I'm Jeff Kushmerek, and this is the AI Customer Success Brief. Talk soon.